In almost any post-production workflow, color correction is a very important step. However, if you're new to video editing, you may not even know where to start with color correction. So in today's tip, let me show you a quick place where you can start with Final Cut Pro X. First, go up to the Window menu, go down to Workspaces, and select Color and Effects. This rearranges the areas in the Final Cut Pro interface for color correction. But if you're new, it can be kind of daunting. So let's take away some of these areas to make it a little easier to get started. First, let's hide the effects area at the bottom right here by clicking this button or using the shortcut Command 5. Additionally, on the left here, we see all these things which are called scopes. Scopes are graphs of the color and brightness in your video expressed in these graphs. We're actually going to use one of these to help us get started. So at the top right, click on the View menu and select the first square. We only need one of these scopes to be visible. And below that, click the button to show a specific scope. We do want to see the waveform scope, but we're going to work with the luminance right now. And the luminance, or luma, is just how bright or dark a specific area of the shot is. Now notice on the right side in the inspector, we have the color board. The color board allows us to adjust a clip's tint, saturation, and exposure. In this video, I'm going to show you how to adjust the clip's exposure, which is just how bright or dark the specific clip is. So let me take you through a few examples. In this first clip, it looks pretty good, but you can see it's kind of washed out. There's almost a haze going across the clip. So using the exposure tab on the color board, I'm going to start by adjusting the clip's highlights, or the bright areas. And I can do this just by dragging this circle up to make it brighter, or down to make it darker. Now specifically, I'm only adjusting the highlights. So only the brightest and darkest areas of the clip are being adjusted. So one way to do this is visually. You can just look at the clip here and make the adjustment until you think it looks good. However, what I'm going to recommend is using the scope. By using the scope, I can look at this graph and I see just the little tiny areas at the top of this clip and where the brightest spots are. This may be difficult to see over this YouTube video, but on your own system, you should see very tiny little spots on the graph at the top, representing the extremely brightest spots of your clip. So adjust that exposure and the highlights circle until you get almost all the way up to the top here. Now notice if I go too high, we just get this solid white line going across the top of the scope. We don't want that. That is called clipping, and that is when you go beyond what can be projected in the video, and you'll just have a solid white area and you'll lose all the detail. We don't want that. So drag it back down and make sure you go just to the top, just where the peaks, the small little parts right at the top of the graph are just hitting the top of our graph here before it clips. And then we're going to do the same thing at the bottom with the shadows, or the darker areas of the clip. I'm going to drag that all the way down. You can see it clips a whole bunch. We lose a lot of detail in the plants. This is where the darker areas are. So I'm just going to drag that back up until I don't lose any of that detail. Now the middle one, as you may have guessed, adjusts the midtones, or the mids. So this you can just make the entire clip a little bit brighter or darker with everything that's in the between. For this clip, I'm going to drag it down a little bit, bring some more detail back into the plants and the trees there. Now, this is just adjusting the exposure. You can repeat these same steps to adjust saturation, color, and other areas of the video. But use this checkbox to see before and after. So here it is with the adjustment, and then here it is without the adjustment. You can see without it, we definitely can see now how washed out this clip is, where if I add the color correction, we bring a lot more detail and a lot more depth into this clip. Now let's move to the next one. This one is pretty straightforward, just a little cat there and not too much going on. You might not see anything wrong with this clip, but let's do this same thing. We're going to drag the highlights up a little bit. Don't have to go up too high this time, and then bring our shadows down. And the midtones, we'll go down just a little bit with midtones. So now I'm going to uncheck the box, so we'll see before and after. And afterwards, this black cap becomes a lot blacker, and we get some more detail in the shadows and some other areas of this clip. So again, let's play it from the beginning, without the adjustment, with the adjustment, without, with. So definitely something that's very subtle, but I recommend doing this for your clips to bring some more detail back into them. Now this is a night shot, and you can see there's a lot of detail already missing in this clip because it was too dark. This was shot on an iPhone, so there's not much detail here. But with a little bit of adjustment, we can make it look, in my opinion, a little bit better. So I'm going to adjust the highlights here. We'll bring those up just a little bit. Go to the shadows. We'll bring those down. As you can see, most of the graph on the left there, if we look at the scope, is going down because most of this shot is darker. And midtones, I'm also going to bring those down just a little bit. Really make the lights here pop out. So again, before, see a lot of haze. You can see some of this light in the top right of the clip. And if we enable the color correction, all of a sudden we get this really dark area around the store. The reds really pop out a lot more just from that little bit of an adjustment there. And then one more clip here for this tip. This one, it's an outdoor clip during the day, so there's a lot of light, which is good. We don't have to move the highlights up too much. Same thing, the shadows here are pretty good, but I'm going to bring those down a little bit. And in the middle here, we'll bring them down just a little bit. We'll add some more shadows. Again, you might like it brighter, darker, color. It's all up to you what you want it to look like, but there's a little adjustment there, so we see before and then after. And especially afterwards, we get a lot more depth, looking specifically at the balconies here. That's where there's some big contrast between the white walls and the darker railings on the balconies there. So seeing it before and after, you can definitely see that detail there. Now, one other tip, because a lot of times you're going to be working with maybe 50 or 60 clips on a really big project that are all shot in the same location. You don't necessarily want to make all these adjustments and have to keep making them for every single clip. So here I have another clip shot in the same location, just looking at the street. So I'm going to copy this first clip, Command-C, or you can go up to Edit and Copy. And then I'm going to go up to Edit, and there's an option here to paste the effects of this clip. I'm going to say Paste Effects. And what that does is it pasted the color board effect right onto this clip. So now I didn't even have to do any color correction. I just took everything I did from that first clip. This is before. Specifically, look at the trees. All the shadows become a lot more darker, pop out a lot more. Even this purple back here seems to pop a little bit more. So that's one thing that you can do. You can also use the option Paste Attributes. Paste Effects pastes everything, but you can do Paste Attributes and select just specific effects. So especially color correction, you usually want to do this as the last step in editing a video. You may have a lot of other effects on clips. You can definitely just copy that clip and then paste a specific color correction to a whole bunch of other clips if you need to, using Paste Attributes. So that's my little tip of the day here. Definitely, if you have not done this with color correction, if you've never done it, go in there, check out the color boards, play around with them a little bit. I would also recommend going here and playing with the color wheels. I think with people that are new to color correction, the color boards are a lot easier to learn. But if you want more detail, more control, the color wheels are a great place to go because you still get highlights, midtones, shadows for everything, except instead of having all those different rooms in the color wheel here kind of brings everything together. So we have our adjustments that we made on the right side here for highlights, midtones, and shadows. It's just this right area is basically all that we've done in this video using the color board. It just the color board puts it in a specific room. So I tend to switch between the color wheels and the color boards, but if you're learning it, check out that color board. And if you want to learn more, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and you won't miss out on any future videos. If you have any questions, you can send an email to finalcutprohelp@me.com, or leave a comment. Definitely thumbs up if you liked the video, and have a wonderful rest of your day.